colleagues, after finding an old photograph of me in the elementary stage, when I followed up on the subject, I discovered that many of the friends at this stage had already died in several wars, including the Iran War, the Desert Storm, the American invasion in 2003, and the Civil Wars. So I made from this picture several different productions and video art and sculpture, and also digital print and book art, which cannot be displayed in galleries but rather in a museum because they contain drama. Because I believe business for all galleries must have a material profit. Because when the project is completed, I want it to be presented in a non-profit place.
في أحد الأيام كنت في مشغلي بالأردن.
During this period, actually, let us start by talking about my travel from Jordan to the United States. In 2007, I was working in my workshop in Amman and was surprised by the presence of 8 people of American nationality who were from the museum station in Houston, Texas. They suggested setting up an exhibition with a group of Iraqi artists. The title of the exhibition was Iraqi Art in Exile. Some of the participants at the exhibition were Diya al-Azzawi, Mahmoud al-Ubaidi, etc.
That's the Lord stuff.
My presence in America helped me to develop my business mentally and technically. They prefer that you display your issues as a Middle Eastern using their modern technology. In the States, the minute you think of something, it's easy for you to implement it.
كل شيء تفكر بيه تريد تخرج في طريقة ما متوفر بأمريكا. وكان تطور حسيت نفسي جدا اتطورت. خاصة بالبداية ضليت تقريبا 4
In the first few months of my immigration, I did not practice art for 6 months, during which I wandered through museums and galleries, moving between Houston and New York to learn about postmodern art. In that period, the digital printing and the art of photography was widespread, and I always wondered about the printers until I was guided about the types of printers by a gallery owner in Connecticut. Previously in Amman, I used a primitive method of digital printing using a small printer, and the work was very tiresome, especially when I worked on large-sized jobs, while large printers print large works with museum specifications. This was my experience in the States, and I had my friend the artist Nizar Yahya, and we were in the same state. Our artistic workshops were at the same building, and we benefited from our presence in the States from their technology, available materials, and healthy atmosphere.
وبعمر العمل الفني أيضا. هذه كانت تجربتي بأمريكا وكان وياي زميلي نزار يحيى، كنا في نفس الولاية ومشاغلنا واحد جنب الثاني، وجدا كنا يعني استفادينا من توفر كل ما تحتاجه.
We used to frequent museums and galleries until I was offered to commit and exhibit my work at Anyatish in Houston, and Nizar also exhibited his works at Wood Wilson Gallery. This was the beginning.
جميلة جدا، وكنا دائما نروح للمتاحف ونطلع إلى أن استقرينا في كل من يعني التزمنا جاليري اللي هو أنا مع أنياتش جاليري في فترة، ونزار مع ويد ويلسون. كانت تجربة حلوة في أمريكا.
After a while, social life in the States suited me no longer, especially as I am a social person with a nightly mood. I love to work at night, and Houston closes at 6 p.m. It was difficult for me to continue in such a situation, so I decided to return to Amman, and my third migration was Baghdad, Amman, the States, and then back to Amman. As there were many friends in Amman, and I preferred to be with them because, as I said before, I'm a social person.
بغداد إلى الأردن إلى أمريكا، بعدين العودة إلى طبعا قبلها أنا كنت رايح أمريكا بكم مشوار، يعني في بوك آرت سنتر، لأن عندي اهتمامات بالبوك آرت، فكنت رايح.
It was not my first visit to the US, as I had previous invitations. For example, from the Center of Book Art in Minnesota. This stemmed from my interest in the book art. And there was another invitation to a personal exhibition from the University of Pennsylvania Museum. The exhibition contained digital print works and video art and was titled The Rain Song.
Are you filming right now? Yes. It would not make sense really to jump right into the poem and the poet without giving you a few remarks about about Iraqi culture and literature.
الرسم اصبح عندي بفد معضله انه ما عاد بما معنى يشفي الغليل. اصبح بالنسبه لي كانه اي شيء اسوي مهما بيحتوي بالرسوم من ديناميكيه احس ستيل لايف، فاتجهت الى وسائل اخرى، ميديا اخرى، يعني مثل التصوير فوتوغرافي، الفيديو ارت، المنحوتات متحركه، اشياء عده، يعني وسائط حديثه مختلفه تميل اكثر للديجيتال. حتى النحت اصبح الان في فقرات اعملها انه ترسم 3D وبعدين تنطبع ب 3D printer. في اعمال نحتيه بستخدم بيها الليزر. هذه الاشياء. اول فيديو ارت عملته هو عن الشطرنج، اعتقد سنة 2007.
Drawing became a dilemma for me, and everything I drew makes me feel that drawing is a rigid life. So I started looking for other means such as photography, video art, and some mobile sculpture. As for sculpting, I rely on three-dimensional drawing programs, and the piece is carved with a three-dimensional printer, and sometimes laser is used for some works.
فراسلوني فقلت لهم أنا بنيويورك وتخيلوا إنه يعني إنه مو جاد.
My first video art was on chess in 2006. And in the same year, I happened to be in New York, and there was a documentary film production company, and they asked me for 10 seconds of my video art on chess to be used as an introduction to a film about civil war. It was a nice coincidence that they thought I was in Baghdad, and I was sitting in a restaurant just a few blocks away from the production company. It was a beautiful day because I was able to sell 10 seconds for $1,000 for my first video art. Of course, my joy was not about the money, but about my being used as the introduction to a film about civil war. The video was about a self-burning chess game while the chessboard remains intact. As for my second work, it was about an old game I worked on about the US invasion. The website only was requested, and I was to get all their products, and already 5 boxes of games have been shipped in return.
هالفترة بديت أشتغل
and then began to work
عن
on the Arab person who is I for being Arab.
هي ليست
All the
يعني
pictures and
النشر عن
sculptures as a
الأعرابي اللي هو
representation
طبعاً
of
لازم يعني
myself,
كل الصور
and then I work on it using the
والمنحوتات
computer.
هي
Mind you, this
هي
work is
التصوير
not
ذاته
designed
يعني
to
selfie
ridicule Bedouin
هو
Arabs.
selfie
It is rather
بنفسه
expectations
بعدين
for
أشتغل
countries
عليها
that are
بالكمبيوتر
not institutionalized,
هي
but are the
هي
countries
مو
of the
سخرية
families, which are short-lived countries.
البداوة أبداً
Because my
هي
country without
توقعات
institutions can collapse easily,
لبلدان
so it was more expectations
ليست
than
بلدان
ridiculing the
مؤسسات
Arab personality.
No, keep going.
Based on this idea, I made a video art called Digital Revolution and sculpted it as a ballerina that dances on music.
كان دائما تذكرني بالباليرينا اللي ترقص على ميوزك واعتقد هي باقية عندي هاي النسخة.
And I think I still have this version, which is a barrel of oil with a sculpted Bedouin. Because my mother had a makeup box and I loved to open it to see the ballerina, which stayed in my memory. So I like to work from this subject, which is a Bedouin Arab dancing on a barrel of oil. I had 7 editions of it and 2 AP.
منها هذا الموضوع واللي هو أعرابي يرقص على برميل نفط.
Then I worked on the Bedouin art in the form of bowling bottles, and the work name was Estrik, as I felt the Arab countries are falling one after the other in the sense that we are exactly like the bowling strike that makes everyone fall. So I made the Bedouin Arab instead of the known bowling bottles, which are 10 with the ball that hits them. I made the carving for this project with digital Brent. My first exhibition was in Baghdad at the French Cultural Center, and the nature of the work was ready art. This exhibition was my turning point from music to fine arts and sculpture. The exhibition was about old and worn musical instruments. I reshaped them in hybrid and sculptural ways, such as the violin and clarinet, and the invention of unfamiliar musical instrument. The exhibition had a good feedback and it was shared by my colleague Shammarey, the sculptor, and I participated with 15 sculptural works.